everyone. This is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy. Be sure to check out our blog, our YouTube channel, and our newsletter, and our great sponsors, Abitiva Casa, Italy Rooting, and Phil Italy. And my guest today is Angelo Parker. So welcome, Angelo. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
My pleasure. So you have an interesting name. You have an Italian first name and an English last name.
Yes, sir. I was actually named after my my nono on my mom's side. My mom's from Puglia, and I was actually born in Puglia as well.
Really?
Because
I didn't know that.
my Italian American journey is different from most other people because I heard a bunch of
Wow.
stories growing up about how people's grandparents, great grandparents, and great great grandparents came to this country. Because back then Italy was in so much turmoil. They're like, hey, let's get on a boat, go overseas, let's go to like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Florida, Colorado. It was
Yeah.
surprising. It was one surprising thing I did not know until last year. I don't know if you heard of like IAFL or the Italian American Futures Leaders organization. I met a bunch of Italians that were from Alabama and Mississippi down south. I did not know this. So it looks like so back then we understand that like a lot of Italian Americans are descended from the diaspora from generations ago. My story is different. My father was actually an Air Force. He was part of the Air Force. He was stationed in Italy back during the Cold War during the 80s. Met my mom there. They got married and had me and my brothers there. And then after a few years of living in Italy, we moved to the United States.
So what part of Puglia?
San Vito di Normandy. For those that aren't too familiar with it, it's a small little town or whatnot. It's probably like a good 15, 20 minutes west of Brindisi.
Okay. Because my mother's family's from Torito and part of Bari. Not that far though, I don't think. So was he? So there's a big Navy. There's an Italian Navy base there, right, in Brindisi?
Not in Brindisi. Before there used to be an Air Force base in San Vito di Normandy. That's where
Ah,
my dad and his veteran buddies had like a joke back in the day. It was like if you were like a part of the United States, a military in the Cold War, you're either a veteran of a foreign war or a veteran of a foreign bar. So back then, they had like a bunch of stuff down there in southern Italy. They had the of course the naval base is actually in Naples, but there used to be a Air Force base over there in San Vito. That's where him and a whole bunch of NATO troops were doing their duties at.
nice. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I think it was probably either World War One. I think there may have been a base in Brindisi. I know the big naval base in Italy now is in Taranto, and my grandmother's brother was an admiral in the Italian army, I think before World War II, actually. I don't know what happened after World War II, but some of my family is from down there. So that's really interesting. So now, because you were born there, do you automatically have dual citizenship?
I do.
Oh, great. I wish I had it.
Yeah, that's one thing that kind of upset me honestly because ethnically there's more. I'm half Italian and half African American, right? And then like I get dual citizenship, and then there's other people here that are more Italian by blood than I am. They don't get nothing now. I heard what happened with the law that passed earlier this year, where they said like, hey, if you can only get from your grandparents now. And now I heard something where like, hey, they're trying to do some stuff where you make it where you can't pass it on to your children.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I was
ridiculous.
I was, this close. I mean, I should have done it years and years ago. I was stupid, but I was this close doing it with my kids because that's the real reason that I would do it now is for my kids because my kids are, I'm 74, but my kids are just around 30, and I wanted them to have it. And I was originally eligible through my father's family, but now I'm not anymore. Thankfully, I'm still eligible through my mother because I was born in 1951 and my mother's parents never naturalized. But, if I can't get it for my kids, that's the whole reason.
Yeah, because I tell people a lot of times that Italy is one of those countries where you get citizenship by blood, or you got to live there long enough to get citizenship. Because in the United States, you can be from anywhere in the world, but if you're born here, you already got automatic citizenship because citizenship by I forgot the Latin word for it, but citizenship is when you get granted citizenship because you're born here, you're automatically a citizen of the United States. Italy is different. Like if two American couples go to Italy and have a baby there, that baby's not gonna have Italian citizenship.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. So you have it because your mother was an Italian born. Then that's how you got it
Yep, my
automatic.
mother's an Italian born, and they go back to Puglia since forever. Definitely no. You know how it is in those small towns and everybody
Yeah.
just knows everybody. Everybody has a little special thing that they do. Like you got people that are fishermen, you got people that are herders, you got people that grow olives, you got people that raise livestock, all that stuff, and everybody has their own role to play.
Yeah, my mother's family, they were all farmers and going back to like 1750 or something like that, as far back as I was able to go. And finally, I came across somebody who was like, I think he was like a forest ranger or something like that. But he wasn't a farmer. I was like, oh, thank God, we got somebody who's not a farmer. Um, so that's really cool for you. That's just fantastic. One thing that has upset a lot of people here, and I don't know if you saw it, Maria Bartiromo, they just granted her citizenship because of her good works or whatever. And not that I have necessarily have a problem with that, but it's not really fair, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm not too I heard of the name before, but was she like a journalist or something? I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember where
she's yeah,
heard
she's
that
a
from.
she's a broadcaster on the Fox Business Network. She's been a broadcaster in New York ever since I can remember, at least 40 years. Um, but it makes you wonder. There's probably other people that they granted citizenship to, and she's got Italian roots naturally, but she didn't have to go through the process, which you know, especially now that they changed the law, really pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, that's I find it really unfair because I understand if you're like getting if you're getting it back in line, you're in your place in line to get citizenship. But for if they just want to like, hey, you're rich and famous, here you go.
Yeah, and people who
You
write,
know,
people who are almost there, they weren't even grandfathered in. They were just told too bad, you know?
oh man, that is crazy. I'm thankful that I got Italian citizenship. I knew that when I was a kid because we live here in like the San Antonio area. The consulate is actually in Houston, so we used to take like a 2.5, 3 hour drive to go to Houston and do our appointments over there. And I remember being a teenager going to Houston and finally getting my first Italian passport. That
Yeah.
was a good
Yeah,
that
that's
was a good thing to have because since then if I went to like Italy or and I had a vacation in Spain, a lot of times I don't care. I had two passports on me. I had an American passport to leave the country and get back, but I had an Italian passport. It's like, hey, just have it on you just in case something happens. Bring it to the hotel. Because if you go to Italy, if you check in the hotel or Airbnb, by law, you have to present them with a form of identification like a passport or something.
yeah, that's right. That's right. At one time they used to hold it. Now they just take a picture of it. The first trip we went, I think they actually held it. But now they just take a photo of it. So now have you gone to the hometown, to your mom's
Oh,
hometown?
yeah, I've been there. I've been there throughout my life. It was just one of those things where like I remember going there like like I was born in '89. We moved to the United States in the '90s, but throughout the '90s and the early in the 2000s, me and my brothers would go to Italy with my mom to visit my mom's side of the family.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. That's great. So you have a real advantage. You get to have Italian food and African American food. I mean, that's like
Oh
super.
yeah, I have a joke too. I was like, yeah, I get invited to the cookout on Saturdays, and I go to the food kitchen on Sundays. And just like this is why I work out a lot because I eat a lot and don't want to pack on too many pounds and all that other stuff. Just try to keep it a nice balance or whatnot. But honestly, another thing I tell people too about Italy is that the food quality there is so much better. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not talking about like portion wise. Is that how you get out Portivo? It's like you spend like 5, 10, 15 euros for like a drink. Then you bring like a smorgasbord of food. You eat it all. You don't even feel full.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's well, I mean, it's fresher for one, uh, and the portions aren't as huge as they are here. And again, Italian American food, as you well know, is much different than the Italian food. They use very few ingredients, and it's not that heavy kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I knew that's why that's one thing question I had when I was younger. I was like, man, why is this all this? Why y'all eat chicken parmesan over here and all this other stuff? And I learned was that when like back in the old country, especially with poor people, meat was not readily available to everybody.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it costs less resources to grow like plants it is to like feed an animal, get fat and slaughter it and preserve the meat and all other stuff. So this is why I learned like a lot of immigrants that came to this country took advantage of the fact that hey, you can get a whole bunch of pork, a whole bunch of chicken, whole bunch of lamb, goat, whole bunch of beef especially. Like I live in Texas, so I grew up around a whole bunch of cattle ranches in this area. So I just imagine how much of a cultural infusion that was, where like if you were like a poor immigrant that came from overseas to the United States of America and you get like a little apartment or a little like go like a little commune or whatnot, then you see like a butcher shop and it has all these meats that you didn't have before. I will take advantage of that too. You know,
Absolutely. Well, my daughter thought when we went a few years ago, she thought she was going to have the best fettuccine Alfredo that she ever had, and I had to tell her it doesn't exist in Italy.
it exists in Rome, but they call it, it's like
They
pasta with
call it,
butter or whatnot because they don't
yeah,
put chicken and mushrooms, everything goes like. There's a bunch of Italian chefs that show up on like YouTube and show how to make it the real way. But
yeah.
like
They have the cacio e pepe,
the old
which
Council
is
Pickle,
isn't that so good?
I love it. Like my personal favorite, like even though my personal favorite pasta to make, even though like I grew up on Irrichetti, my favorite
Hmm.
pasta to make is pasta carbonara. And I tell folks
Yeah,
if you want recipes are really simple, but you gotta follow the rules. Because there were times when I was learning how to make carbonara, it was like a scrambled egg pasta. I'm like, oh my god, you know. So I learned it's cooking. You know, cooking is trial and error. You know, you're not gonna get better by reading a book. You just gotta actually do it. So you can actually refine your technique and perfect it.
well, same thing. I was making it, and wasn't coming out right. And my cousin, actually, she's my third or fourth cousin. She did a cookbook of our family, and they had a great recipe in there. And I think the key to it is using the pasta water to kind of loosen it up.
I keep telling people that that is the magic. That is the magic sauce. You got to use the pasta water. If you don't use the pasta water, it's not gonna stick all together.
Right,
That's
you
why
get
it's
the
funny.
scrambled eggs.
And the thing is, like, I see people before that, like, I go to people's houses before, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna have like spaghetti for dinner, whatever." Okay, not my mom's spaghetti. They'll have like the pasta. They'll drain all the pasta water, then they'll wash it. They put it on a plate, then put sauce on it. I'm like, that's not how you do it. Like, you
No,
gotta put the
no,
sauce with the pasta water, mix it with the drained pasta. It'll be so much better. You know, you don't want to miss
exactly.
those little small steps. The little things make a huge difference.
Yeah. So does your mom, does she make the orchetti?
Oh, she does. Oh, yeah, she does. She
Yeah,
does. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. My grandmother used to make it. I make it occasionally, or I make cavatelli sometimes on my
Yeah, the
own.
thing is, like, if I make uricchetti, I'll mess up too much, so I start making cavatelli. I'm still I'm still working on getting my uricchetti game down right because, like, there are times I'll be somewhere that's like, okay, too big, too small. I was like, man, I'll make a little. Let's let me make cavatelli with this. No, it's a lot easier. It don't taste the same.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I know when we were in Bari the last time we saw the women, they were on the street there making and everything. That was fun to watch. But yeah, I grew up with that and cavatelli and stuff like that. So now when your mom came here, did she speak English at all? I mean, what was her transition like when she came to the States?
It was a little bit of English. Like everybody has an immigrant story of like if your mom and your grandparents came by, they spoke a little English. Like she spoke enough English to get by. She got a lot better at it now, but back then it was just like she didn't know that too many words to what to say in what situation. So a lot of times me and my brothers would help her out. We're like saying what kind of words, or my dad too, just help her out with translation sometimes. And with that being said, because I knew like a lot of immigrants have that experience come to the country, just getting used to the language. It's one of those other things too. The more you use, the better you get at it. Like for
So
myself,
how old were you and your brothers and stuff when you came to America?
I think we were like probably my dad got orders station. He got stationed in Hawaii, so I think we're like I think I was like 2 or 3 years old, but it was one of those things we kept going to Italy throughout my lifetime. I remember speaking to my dad in Italian back when I was a little kid. So
So your dad had it rough. I mean, he had to be stationed in Italy, then he had to be stationed in Hawaii. I mean,
that sounds like a fun time to me. No, it's funny because my dad was Air Force. I believe he joined right at the end of the Vietnam War. I had some uncles that were in the army during the Vietnam War. I'm grateful that they made it out. But when he got when he got stationed in Italy, they had to learn Italian, obviously. And the thing was like a lot of the Mexicans he was with, and a lot of the Puerto Ricans and Caribbeans he was with, they picked it up really fast because
sure.
Italian and Spanish are sister languages.
Yeah.
But with English is like kind of a little bit harder translation. This is why like when I was in high school, I took 2 years of French, and when I was in college, I took a semester of Spanish, and I did really well with those classes
Oh,
because
that's good.
a lot of them have the same structure, and a lot of words are similar too. Like for Spanish, Spanish sounds more like Italian verbally, but if you write stuff down, French has more common with Italian, in my experience.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've heard that in certain cases, especially I think with some of the verb conjugations and things like that. So now, so your mom's family obviously has been in that town as as far as long as she knows. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as you know, yeah. And the thing is, like, I remember being a little kid playing in the streets and whatnot, and down there in San Diego, they normally playing with my brothers, playing with our friends, and getting older and older. You see, like, a lot of people that you remember from back in the day, not here no more. It makes you more grateful for the times you go to Italy. That's why I tell people, like, if you go, there's two times you cry in Puglia: when you go and when you leave. Because when you go, you can't believe you've never been there before. When you leave, you gotta leave all the good experiences of Puglia. So,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Our first trip there was about 30 years ago. We didn't go to Puglia. Our son was just a baby, and we went to Rome for a couple of days, and then spent a week in Sorrento and things like that. But halfway through the trip, and my wife she's half Puerto Rican, half Sicilian, and she says, "You love it here." And I said, "I feel like I'm with my people." You know, that's just a feeling that, especially when you go to a hometown. You know.
yep. And it was just funny growing up because even though me and my brothers looked a little bit different, like this was back when I had like an afro or whatnot. Can't tell now, but how do you say like longer hair back in the day? Back when I was a kid, like we got treated like everybody else, like all friends and family members showed us love and took care of us when we were kids, looked after us, and we did the same thing for other people too. So
Yeah, that's I'm just so jealous of you that you have Italian citizenship because you were born there and your mother was Italian.
there's
I
a
mean,
little
I could
thing.
trace my family back 1,000 years on my father's side, and I can't get citizenship.
That's the thing I don't get about the citizenship by blood is like, what's the limit for it? I know the guys are concerned about like people that are that descended from Italians and just get citizenship and just don't do anything or anything like that. But what will be like the guidelines now, or what kind of barriers are placed in front of people that want to get citizenship, that want to contribute to the country of Italy, now making it harder? I don't know if you heard, but did you hear about they want to grant 500,000 visas to like
No, I
non-Italy
haven't.
citizens?
No, I didn't. I haven't heard that. I
No,
haven't
I
heard that.
saw it's like the other month or whatnot, and they were doing this illegally. They're not The thing is those visas are not going to like white collar jobs or like any type of like tech jobs or like any jobs that are like high paying jobs. A lot of those visas are probably going to like the lower wage jobs like manufacturing, farming, stuff like that. Because Italy's having a problem now where a lot of people are just leaving and go somewhere else. And it's funny that you mentioned that your wife was half Puerto Rican. One of my best friends growing up, he was Puerto Rican, but his great grandmother was Italian from New York City. So we just ended up being neighbors when we were kids. And he lives in Queens Astoria now. I need to make a visit up there one of these days. But he tells me that a lot of immigrants go to Italy, and they're in Italy for a little bit. They end up go to like France, UK, or United States. He's really familiar with the Albanian community and Greek community out there in Astoria, Queens. A lot of them had the same story. Oh, I was in Italy for a few years. Noticed that the job opportunities weren't that great. They went to the UK or went to France, then ended up in the United States.
Yeah, I actually went to school in Astoria. I'm from College Point, which isn't that far. My school was in Astoria. So now, have you dug into your mom's family? Have you tried to trace back as far as you can go back?
We tried to. It's just they've been in a little small little town forever and ever and ever. It's all in southern Italy. And when I did my one thing I did find interesting though is when I did my I think it was ancestry.com like back in 2018, I believe. I came back 49% Italian, and a lot of that Italian was in Puglia, but also a lot of that was from the Napoli region as well in Campania.
Ah, that's interesting.
And then the crazy thing was when because you think ancestry.com, it matches you with people from around the country. So my dad's African American. His ancestors came as slaves, and like throughout the Carolinas and Virginias back in the 1800s. So if I go on my dad's side, I get like hundreds of connections, right? But if I go on my mom's side, I probably get like probably like less than a dozen or half a dozen.
Yeah, well, Italians don't do ancestry, and then so unless some of her family came here, which it sounds like they didn't, or at least not a lot. Yeah, you're not gonna get matches. I signed up for Living DNA. Phew, boy, at least 10 years ago, maybe more, because they were based in Europe, and I figured, well, maybe there'll be more hits, but there are. That's not because the Italians. I always say this: they don't really need to do it because they could just walk to the cemetery and find 5 generations there, and it doesn't matter.
That's what we did.
Yeah,
My mom would say, here's your grandma, here's grandpa, here's great grandma, here's great grandpa, and here's your other relatives. And yeah, just like I always try. I was in Puglia last year. I couldn't make it this year. I got a new job, and I'm looking for a new place right now to make my job easier to commute to or whatnot when I need to go to. So with that being said, next time I go, I'm gonna get I'm gonna start asking my aunts and my cousins more questions to see if we can bring up more people, if there's anybody else outside of the family. I met my extended family as well. Like I met like second cousins and third cousins when I was younger. But I want to see like how far does that rabbit hole really go down?
Yeah, yeah, and I always said, I haven't done it. I should have done it the last time I went. I always said I was gonna bring some DNA test kits with me and see if I could get them to do it, just
Nah,
to
no,
see, but
you're not
they
gonna. No, they're stubborn. Like they're
no, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Southern Italians are. They're very stubborn and they're not gonna do it. You gotta convince, they have to do it because you
well,
gotta convince them to do it. They're not gonna do it.
have you ever heard the Capatos? Hard-headed?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit hard headed myself. That's why I get my hard headedness. That's my parents told me like, yeah, you're a little hard headed, and I'm like, oh,
Uh,
that's
that's from the
inherited.
Italian side, yeah. So I am interested on your dad's side now because how far back have you been able to go on his side?
Oh, we actually had before the internet, like the internet was around in the 90s, but like we had like a family tree, and the first person that we traced it back to was a slave named Moses Parker,
Really? Wow. So how far back?
probably mid to early 1800s from his dad's side, from my dad's side.
Wow.
Excuse me. And thing is, my dad's actually related to Ben Carson as well.
Oh, no kidding.
Which is
Wow. Yeah.
I think because Ben Carson, I believe he's my grandmother's, yeah, my grandmother's on my dad's side, her nephew.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's really interesting. Yeah. So on your father's side, did you find any like kind of like really interesting stories or any anecdotes or anything about anybody in the family, whether they were slaves or not slaves or
My dad's side of the family, man, I don't know where to start. You know, we were brought up
start at
with,
the beginning?
nah, because it's crazy. Because my dad's from Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, and that's where a lot of my extended family are at right now, and we got some family down in the Carolinas as well. And it's been, this is a bunch of cousins and stuff like that, a bunch of people that there are times every now and then I go on ancestry.com just to check some updates out, and I get like some random message for a cousin like, "Hey, how do you know this person, or are you related to this person, that, that, that." I'm like, wow, this is this is a lot of information. I know it goes this deep, but yeah, my dad's side of the family, I remember my grandfather was drafted to World War II, and the one thing I don't like about World War II history was like how they what was it they discriminated against the troops or had everything segregated.
Mhm.
That's why I always tell people like I'm more of a fan of Dwight D. Eisenhower than Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because Roosevelt, even though he led us through World War II, he was a no he was a I want to say what would be appropriate to say that he was racist or like a segregationist at this time, because he didn't allow for troops to be integrated with each other.
Well, actually, it actually started with Woodrow Wilson. Yeah. If you look it up, if you, I mean, everybody has their own opinions. My opinions of Woodrow Wilson are not very nice because of what I read about him. But he was a super racist, and I believe he was the first president from Virginia post Civil War, for first president from maybe even the South post Civil War. Um, and yeah, I mean, uh, I can't remember the guy's name now, but that guy who started the NAACP, he basically wouldn't let him in the White House. And prior to him, the a lot of the federal jobs were integrated. He segregated them again, and it didn't come back then again until it started with Eisenhower, and then of course through Kennedy and Johnson and all of that. But yeah, if you never looked at the history of Woodrow Wilson, he was not a nice man as far as I'm concerned. Uh, and he showed, oh, I can't think of it. I'm getting too old to remember all of these names, but the movie about the South, the silent movie about the South, he actually showed it, which was very racist. He actually showed it at the White House. Um, but yeah, you know, check him out. My problem with Roosevelt is that he didn't like Italians either. They created the Enemy Alien Act.
Oh,
Uh,
I know some people. I know some people who family members were locked up or they were sent to those internment camps.
yeah,
I
my
actually
family didn't go to internment camps, but I have my grandparents' cards. They're enemy alien cards.
Yeah,
So
because like growing up,
people actually were interred.
hmm? Yeah, like growing up in Texas, like there's a huge German population down here, like in South Texas or whatnot. And like I heard stories of, like people like, hey, my grandfather he got sent to a camp because he immigrated from Germany at the time. I was like, wow, these people they got no fair trial or anything. They're like, hey, you came from this country, yada yada yada. We just want to throw you in your camp and tell you good luck.
Well, what they did with us was that they didn't put a lot of Italians in camps. I think it was like 30 or 40,000 or something like that. And a lot of them were on the coast, either in San Francisco and New York and places where the shipping was. But everybody had to register and get a card. My grandparents were in their sick. They had to have the picture and all of that. Meanwhile, their children were American citizens because they were born here.
Wow.
But then Roosevelt realized he needed the Italians to fight. So it was shortly thereafter where they got rid of it. And they didn't treat some Germans like they treated like that, but most of the Germans, because they were here for so long, they were born in America, German Americans, they didn't have to register. I think it was probably people had immigrated here later. Like my ex-wife's father, he was German. He was German, but he was born here, and they sent him to Germany to go fight. Yeah. But yeah, no, that those years between the 20s and the 60s were just ridiculous. It was just really, really unfair to what they did. But uh, I like to think that most, if not all of that, is behind us now.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Oh yeah, another crazy thing too. I knew one of my older customers. I used to work at a metal supply company, and one of my customers, he's an Italian American, but I believe like either his grandfather was fresh off. He told me his grandfather was fresh off the boat and decided to fight for the United States when that time came. So during World War II, he got stationed in Italy. So I believe like at first he went to Sicily, but the problem was when he was in Sicily, he couldn't understand the language because he spoke
Mhm.
Italian. They say he spoke think he said he spoke Neapolitan, and then like he went to Sicily like, hey, talk to these people, see what's going on, and they're like, hey, we can't understand each other, and like he got his American commanders getting upset with him because he said he told them that he spoke Italian. Then the guy's like, hey, I speak Italian, I don't speak Sicilian.
Well,
It,
what's funny is I know for a fact my father's father, because I've seen the registration. He had to register for the draft in World War I, and he was probably in his 40s. And then after the Enemy Alien Act was changed or revoked, whatever you want to say, he had to register for the draft for World War II, and he was in his 60s.
oh wow, like register. I
Yeah.
had internet back then, but
Well, I guess they didn't know, so many people had to go to war and everything like that. I guess they figured just in case. But, on the one hand, you had to register as an enemy alien, and then within a year, you had to register for the draft again.
what can you do? You're gonna do what you can.
You're lucky you didn't have to deal with any of that draft stuff. But you still had to register, right? My son had to register,
Yeah,
so you had to
yeah. It
register.
was. I remember I got my driver's license. I was 18, and like, oh, I had to register to vote. If you register to vote as 18-year-old, you automatically get registered to draft or not. So
Oh, really? I didn't know that. See, we had a report as soon as you turned 18, and back in the day, we had to report to the Selective Service Office and, fill out the forms. But for us in New York, because we could drink at 18 back then. So we wanted our draft cards for that reason only,
I don't like it.
because that was better than a license. If you went into a bar with a draft card, you were golden. But everything was so easily forged back then. That wasn't funny. Draft cards, especially, because it was just a little tiny little card, typed on it. You went to there and the guy would interview you, ask you your name and your birthday and your social security, and then you type it on a thing. And, a week later, you'd have it in the mail. But I was lucky. I didn't have to go to Vietnam. So I was saved from that. I guess how old's your father now?
My father is 70. He just turned 73.
So I'm 74. So he must have had. Now, did he get drafted or he enlisted?
He enlisted after he was doing college for a little bit, and he enlisted after college. So, but by that time, Vietnam War was already done.
Yeah, it was already finished. I had a friend who he enlisted in the Air Force It was probably 1970, and, at a boot camp, they asked the people, "You have a choice. You could go overseas now, or you could go overseas later." So, and they asked you where you wanted to go. So he said he would go now, and he wanted to go to Germany because he was German, and he got to go overseas then to Germany. Everybody who said they wanted to go later went to Vietnam.
They'll get you. They want you, they'll get you.
Yeah, yeah. So what'd your dad do in the service?
He was communications. He worked in communications with the United States Air Force. Like I don't remember much of the Cold War. Like I was born like right after the wall fell in Germany.
Mhm.
So what they so back then United States had a whole bunch of bases in Europe to spy on the Russians. And the Russians did the same thing on the eastern side of Europe.
Yeah, I had it's my ex-wife's cousin, and he was also my boss in the chemical bank. He did that for the Air Force. He was stationed in Germany for a while and also in Spain. But when he was in Germany, he was communications, same thing. And he said we were in a bunker and we had orders that if the Russian tanks crossed the border, we had to blow up the bunker with ourselves in it.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't that bad in southern Italy back when the Giants were there. But,
I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't. And how many years was he in the service?
I think it was like 21, 22 years.
Oh,
He
nice.
retired as a master stat sergeant or
Oh,
master sergeant.
wow,
It's
that's
like an
great.
E7 or E8, I believe. I have to ask him. I haven't told him. I
Very
haven't
nice.
I haven't asked him in a while. So probably like I think it was like E7 or E8 he retired as. But 21, 22 years in the service, did his thing, and we ended up here in San Antonio at the end of his service. So been here since in Texas.
Yeah, my daughter lives in Dallas, so I guess not too far from you, Texas-wise.
Oh,
She lives
there's a one Italian store. It's like Jim's store or Jim's Market down there up there in Houston, up there in Dallas. If I could find the name of it, I would definitely send the information for it. It's like
Oh, yeah,
heavily.
because my daughter they're always looking for someplace, for some Italian stuff. Very hard to find, I guess, in Texas, the real Italian stuff, yeah.
I found some spots. I found some spots here in San Antonio. I know down here we're huge on HEB. HEB is like a big it's like a big grocery store chain down here in Texas. They got something called Central Market. Central Market is like more like the bougie or like the up class HEB or whatnot. They have a whole bunch of Italian stuff there. That's the only place I was able to find guanciale, which is really hard to find. The pork jowl for my pasta dishes and recipes or whatnot. They have a whole bunch of other stuff too. You remember if you were in Italy, did you ever drink that fruit juice called succo di fruit? Like those
No.
bottles, those glass bottles.
No, no,
They
I've
got
never
those
had
there
that.
too. So I was surprised one day I was walking by the aisle and saw like they had succo di fruit. I was like, they got them in pear and apricot and peach. I was like, I took them all. I took all the flavors. Yeah, it reminds me just as home. And they have a lot of stuff there. A lot of Italian brand pastas there too. You could tell it's Italian brand because like if you look on the back of the packaging, they'll have like English labels. You peel it off and they'll have like a bunch of Italian labels and stuff. And they'll have like Italian label, Spanish label, Polish label, German label. Because you know in the EU, if you sell something in the supermarket, it has to have like all these different languages.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And there was this one restaurant called Fratello's that used to make the guy his he was Calabrese. Or his family was Calabrese. He opened a restaurant there. They closed now, but back then they used to make like the best porpettis that I ever had in the city. Outside my mom's kitchen, these were the best porpettis because he used beef and pork in his porpettis. I was like, cool. And one day I was over one time. It was the only place I know that had like really good cannolis too. Because I'm a believer that a lot of places have cannolis, but not enough places have really good cannolis. We got saying down here in Texas, like everybody has brisket, but how many places have really good brisket?
Uh-huh.
You know, one of those things, right? Everybody has it. What's the point of it? So one day I went to Fratello's, got some cannolis and stuff, and I was talking to the owner. He was like, "Hey, why don't you try some of this food?" All right, I tried it. I was like, "Wow, this is pretty damn good." Like, especially with Papretis, like it's not soggy or anything. It was juicy in the middle. Man, it was delicious. But they tend to close down then. So
There's a place in the North End in Boston, Mike's. I don't know if it's Mike's Pastries or something like that, but if you look up Mike's Bakery in Boston, they actually ship. It's not cheap, but they actually ship the cannoli kits with the their frozen cannoli cream and fresh shells and all of that. It's really, really good. If you're having a party or something and you want like something really, really authentic, Mike's, I think it's Mike's Pastries, but like I said, if you just do Mike's Bakery in Boston, North End, Boston, they ship it. Yeah, I know. When we were in my mom's hometown, they he made when we grew up on it here. It's called Chevrolet, and it's a lamb sausage with lamb, parsley, and cheese, and it's like thin. And we used to eat it here, and we used to if my uncles were barbecuing, you'd go get a sandwich, and then you get online with the first sandwich with a empty roll to get the second sandwich while you were eating the first sandwich. And so we were in my mom's hometown, and they my cousin's cousin was taking us to eat, and he said, "Well, we'll have pasta to start, and then if you want the secondo, we'll have meat or something." So I said, "Do they have civelette?" And he goes, "I don't know. I'll ask." And they did, and it was like nothing I ever tasted before. It was just so good. It was just and he said, I guess in a lot of these small towns, they said, "Well, Torito is that's the only place you're supposed to eat civelette because that's their specialty." And here they kinda make a fake one, but they don't use lamb, they use pork. So it's not the same taste. That's not the taste that we had growing up. And it's the same thing with sausages in New York. We used to get the sausages with fennel in it. Very few places you could find a sausage with fennel in, very few. And that's what I remember was real Italian sausage, not the stuff you buy in the supermarket. But there's a place around here that you could get that kind of stuff. So, obviously, you enjoy cooking then, right?
Yes, I do. I was gonna say, since y'all like sausages, man, like, what was your culinary experience about Italy? Because when I go to Italy, I'm open to eat everything. Like I ate horse down there, rabbit, snail, mussels, anything you think of you could pull out the ocean or grow on a farm. We used to eat growing up in Italy or
Yeah, I'm
visiting.
not adventurous like that. My son is, my wife is, I'm not, and me and my daughter were not adventurous. So,
Yeah, I got a funny story about that. One back in 2016, I went with a me and my friends. We went on a trip to Italy. It was a group of like 20-year-olds or like 25-year-olds and stuff like that. Like if you're between the ages of like 18 and 28, you're good to go to the trip. So we decided to go, and we went from Venice to Verona, and I was in Verona, and I was like the only person in my group of friends that spoke Italian. So I was like going around the restaurants right now. Then I see something. I see a guy like up front, and I was going by asking questions, asking people questions. I asked this one gentleman, "Hey, do y'all have horse in Italian?" He was like, "Oh, yes, we do." I looked at my friends group like, "Hey, y'all want to try something good? Let's try some horse meat." And they loved it. They like, that's not the weirdest part. The weirdest part, there's one girl that was in our group. She had donkey pasta. I was like, donkey, if I was hungry enough, I eat it. But I was like, if I see a horse steak or something, like, I'm gonna get that horse steak. Man, I'm just too hungry for that.
yeah, that's adventurous. I'll have to say, especially donkey. I don't know if a horse I might be coaxed, but donkey I don't know about.
Because I don't know if north they eat more like horse steaks or whatnot. Down south in Puglia, we eat like horse sausage.
Yeah, yeah. I had I interviewed somebody, and he was saying that he brought his wife to the hometown in Italy. His grandmother took her down or out, and there were some cages there. It was either in the basement or outside. And she said, showed her a bunch of rabbits, and she said, "Which one do you like?" And she said, "Oh, I like them all, but I can't take them back on the plane with me." And she said, "No, no, not for the plane, to eat."
Yeah, it's funny because like I grew up eating rabbit and being in Italy. Then like over here, I got my hunting license or whatnot. So me and my friends, we would go on his plot of land here in Texas, and we would shoot rabbits, and my mom would cook it. The thing was like, it was really easy to just get like a 22 rifle. Hey, we don't have some Easter. I'm about to hunt up some Easter dinner. Go out in the field, just like start get some rabbits, and you bring them in, you clean them up, you get the intros, you get all the scraps to your dog or whatnot. Then you make a nice rabbit roast.
Mhm.
It tastes like lamb. That's what I love about rabbit, especially cottontail rabbit.
Well, and I'm sure your mom knows how to cook it very well, huh?
Yeah, yeah, she does. I learned all that in Puglia, so that's the one thing I love about Italy too, because like a lot of people think Italy is like really like narrow when it comes to like food wise or food cuisine.
Yeah.
Like they think it's like all pasta and pizza, and like no, it's not. Like I tried a bunch of great food around Italy, and I loved it all. One of my favorites was a it's like a risotto they make in Milan with the saffron and like the bone in it. That
Mhm.
stuff was
Yeah,
good.
the ossobuco, yeah.
Also, bulk that stuff is.
That's so good. That is so good.
And then when I went to one time, me and my friends, we went to Venice one time, and I had like some seafood. You can tell the seafood was fresher over there because of the salinity of when you bite into it. Like you don't have to put no salt on it. Just bite into it and like, man, this is so freaking good.
Yeah, I'm not a huge seafood fan, but we were there in Calabria and places like that. We went to there's a restaurant in Sheila in Calabria where their specialty is swordfish sandwiches, and it's just swordfish, olive oil, and lemon. That's it. That's it.
I love swordfish. Like I know that it could be higher mercury depending where you get it at, but man, swordfish just like on medium is so freaking good.
Yeah, and this was and like I said before, that they use very few ingredients in Italy. It's not overspiced. It's we had a Tuscan beef stew when we were in Florence, and it's like 4 ingredients. It's beef, wine, a little garlic, probably maybe some onion or something like that, and that's it. And they just, the wine obviously gives it the flavor. But yeah, it's so much simpler there than what we have here. Although one person over there told me, "Well, you Americans, you make your spaghetti sauce with ketchup," and I was like, "We're not that bad."
They've been in Oklahoma, but not over here. Oh yeah, in Florence. Did you have to eat the Lambrotto in Florence?
No, no, I didn't.
It is. I know it's so hard to make it here in the States. So I know Lambrotto. It's the fourth chamber of the cow's stomach that make it into like a sandwich, and it tastes like a roast beef sandwich.
Oh,
The
really?
thing is, like, I
Yeah.
try to find it here. I try to find like a meat market here that has it because you could buy like Modudo here or like tripe here, but I can't find anywhere that has a fourth stomach. I'm looking for the fourth stomach because each stomach, if you eat like I love eating organ meats or whatnot from a cow. Like I eat liver, kidneys, and stuff like that. But man, like every time I go to like butcher shop, like a new butcher shop I haven't been to before, I'm like, man, do y'all happen to have the fourth chamber of the stomach of the cow? No, all we have is tripe. I tried to do it with tripe before, and it wasn't that good. So I was like, I tell people if you're in Florence, go to like a little stall that says Lambrotto. You get yourself a nice Lambrotto sandwich. Even though it's made out of cow stomach, it tastes just like roast beef.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. That's something. So before we go, Angelo, for anybody who wants to, try and research their family, or whether they're Italian or African American or whatever, where do you suggest that they start?
Start with your parents, and then start with your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, and then start. If you still have surviving grandparents, like unfortunately for me, I didn't have both my grandparents on my mom's side. They passed away before I was born, so I didn't have that experience growing up. But if you want to learn more about your family history, just talk to your relatives about it. And a lot of them will probably tell you some stuff, like some stories, like, "Oh, I didn't know they did this. I didn't know they did that." They can give like a deep history. And also with ancestry.com, I know a lot of people do that thing, or like a lot of these geological websites. If like you start putting in like names of like your relatives in the databases, a lot of times records will show up.
That's right. That's right. And for Italian, sometimes you need to try different spellings too, because then there's a lot of times the names are changed. There may be an extra L or a T or one missing or something like that. So it's always good to put in like a question mark or something like that in some places to get a little bit more detail. Well, Angela, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for taking the time for sure.
Well, thank you, Bob. We appreciate it.